Hi, it's Steve again, and I am here with Felicia Milelli, who I am boldly calling a freedom fighter, and she's here to tell her story. So, Felicia, let's start out. Um, who are you fighting and why?
I'm currently fighting the administration and the state of New Jersey at the lower level. But there seems to be a higher power, um, a more elaborate goal in mind that I'm fighting against a systematic change in our nation and in the world. Yeah.
So,
Make
you're saying you started out with a more local battle, and you realized that the battleground is really global?
Yes, for sure. hmm Yeah.
Who is the enemy?
You know, at some place I can't control at the moment. So my focus has become on a state level, the pieces that I can manipulate and have effect on. I'm not. I don't want to target and in this instance say exactly who the mastermind is, and I don't think it is one particular society or person. I think it's just the ultimate globalization. I would refer to it as the one world order to make changes to our the way that the world is. Um, so I don't think it's one specific person that I'm that this is an uphill battle toward.
So, not necessarily one specific person, but there are a number of parties, all who have share the common goal of trying to impose a one world order.
Yeah, that's what I believe. hmm
And do you believe they're working in conjunction, or they're kind of working separately but towards the same end?
Again, Steve, I'd like to keep it just where I can control. I don't have those answers particularly. I think that there is an orchestration occurring at different levels where just big industries, big pharma, elitists have come together and have ultimate goals. I don't know that there's one specific puppeteer at the top, um, pulling any specific strings, but there is changes that are occurring, and there is, particularly in certain directions to globalize our country, our world, excuse me, the world, and again, that is much bigger than me. But what I can do and what I am fighting for as a freedom fighter, as you identify me as, is at more of a state and a local level, to be able to drive change and protect and strengthen our ability to make medical decisions for ourselves and our families here in New Jersey. And that's deeply something that I am deeply committed to on a very personal level.
Um, have you always been an advocate of medical freedom, or is this a relatively new stand you've taken?
No, so medical freedom, I would say I sort of was thrown into in 2019 when they aimed to remove the religious exemption, the ability to cite religious exemption, and surrounding sending our kids to schools. And but in 2007, I left working for pharma and became a holistic health coach. It became very apparent to me that myself, my family, and our nation's children and adults were the state of health was just declining rapidly, and it became just very clear that that's what I needed to do, is to dive into um, things that could help manipulate change in regarding health. So different types of modalities, nutrition, peeling back the onion on what's causing these massive changes and decline in health. 30% of children in the United States have chronic illness. Like 60% of adults, the life expectancy is declining. 2019, I think it was like the average age of 76, and in 2020, I'm sorry, 70, like 79, 80, and now currently it's gone down to 76. That's frightening. Our males are in, fertility rate in general as a picture. Sperm count's gone down. Women can't get pregnant. Just the health overall has declined greatly. And again, in 2007, while I was going through the nutrition program, I got pregnant, and I was immersed into what that was like, to be able to be pregnant, surrounded by all these holistic and wellness minded people, and learning about the birth process, and just taking the journey through motherhood with children with that mind, was so eye-opening, to see that, all the decisions that I made that were to keep my children as clean as possible, so that they can have the natural healing process and support the healing process with things that lifted them up, not brought them down. And my challenges in my health really propelled that. And I needed to make sure that that was the way that I raised my children. And when I started to read every package insert and every ingredient, and again, stripping away chemicals and interferences of, toxicity and all of that, I started to see in myself and in the clients that I worked with successes, like becoming pregnant, and healing from inflammation, and arthritis and chronic illnesses, that I was able to work with these people and heal. And it just became apparent to me that that's what I needed to do. And I was working with people individually, but always sharing and inspiring the community through social media, through newsletters. And then in 2014, I started a program called Wellness in the School Environments, WISE. And I started educating on, parents and schools, and how we can bring wellness into the school environments. So between my health coaching and WISE, the health coaching I call it Appetite for Wellness. That's my business name for that. And then WISE, bringing school wellness into the schools. I didn't realize it then, but I had kept hitting a wall in progression when it came to, let's say, WISE. And I would go to the school board, and I wanted to bring fruits and vegetables into the school system, and I was told I can't, and then thinking back to the politics with food, and how the head of the cattle industry became the head of the FDA, and the labels and the marketing and suppression of healthy foods in that respect too. And just looking into organics and the way that our food is being grown, and the whole process. I saw the politics there. So then in 2019, when I was told that the religious exemption was going to be removed, here we go again. So I was fed up, just completely fed up with the system and the way that things were being suppressed in regards to our health. And you would think that in regards to vaccinations, that is, some minds may think that is a form of healthcare. I feel that the medical system has failed me and failed our country and our society. The conventional medical system, not all, but the system at large. So I seek different modalities. For instance, when COVID hit, I didn't see one. I don't know about you, Steve, but I didn't really see one advertisement to do for ways of supporting the body. One direction, get out. They didn't want us to get outside to walk. There was no recommendations of healthier modalities or things to support the body, get sunlight, have conversations, keep your mood up. All of these things that support the natural body systems and the natural healing process. And it's discouraging. So for me, it's really about the health and wellness, and being able to have the freedom to make medical decisions for ourselves and our families. And then, just of course, it's looking back and not wanting to repeat history, looking back at the Nuremberg Code and the Zeke experiment. And when you start opening these doors of what's happened in the past in regards to medical practices, and seeing how neglectful they were and how just egregious they were in mandates, and it's not a one size fits all. So that's very important to me, to be able to maintain our personal freedoms with our health decisions.
I really appreciate that. You said it so well. And I really get how much you treasure health and healing. And I really understand your criticisms of the medical establishment. Um, I have found that many people are kind of in shock, and it's hard for them to believe that they could actually be betrayed by their doctor. Um, have you were you ever immune to that, or did you have to overcome feelings of betrayal yourself?
So I had to overcome that. My pediatrician was my mom's pediatrician. I adored her. We had a back door entrance to her office growing up.
Wow.
And I recently had to review those records because of my own chronic illness that I've been facing. And my mom handed me over the book, and she said, she was in tears, and she said, "I'm so sorry, Felicia." She's like, "I basically breastfed you amoxicillin." And if you look back at what I had before I was 2 years old, I had over 7 doses of amoxicillin before I was 7 years old.
Mm.
That gives no ability for my gut to be able to handle um, future infections, and it's just wiping the slate clean. Um, and so, I'm not anti-medicine. I'm not anti-vaccine. I'm actually an ex-vaxxer when it comes to my children. Um, and in terms of that, I did vaccinate my children. So they received all the childhood vaccines, my first 2 children. I have 4 children. And my first 2 received all of them, just on a slower schedule, because I did have that awareness that I didn't want to bombard their bodies with too much. And both of them were considerably speech delayed. They both have food allergies, and my daughter has a pretty elaborate learning disability. They both do, but hers is, pretty elaborate learning disability. And thankfully, there was a 5-year gap between my first 2 and my second 2. So I was able to really see how they worked and how they were in the educational system and how they were progressing. And I said, "Oh gosh, we need to slow this down or stop." And my doctor respected my choices. And for me, it really, I didn't want to do it to begin with. And when I went I was living in New York City. And when I went to my doctor's office, I said, "I'm really questioning this. I have a lot of sensitivities myself. And I want to, I'm not sure I want to, start with the vaccinations." And she said, "Well, I respect that. We can slow it down." She said, "But you're not going to be able to send your kids to school unless you do." And so I went with it. But I really do believe our bodies were created in God's image, and that everything we need to heal is at our fingertips in nature. I know that the medical system is incredible for critical care. I don't oppose that. I value it greatly. And medical practices are there for people who want them. Not everybody's going to think like me, and that's okay. But I wish no harm on public health. I greatly would appreciate if public health could be seen in an innovative way. And that's why one of the reasons we named our political action committee, it's New Jersey Public Health Innovation, because we just believe that once our legislators respect our bodies and our basic human rights to make medical decisions for ourselves, and they respect our bodies' ability to heal, we'd be really supporting public health. When you raise up the ability for the body to heal with natural modalities and support, you're actually growing health. So we're always on the defensive, but we hope to be one day where we can create a system of true public health in New Jersey.
May that day come soon. You mentioned that in your thinking, we're created in God's image, and that we're basically created with everything we need to be healthy.
Yes.
So did you always think like that, or have you articulated a lot of thought about the role of God in your life, or is it just kind of a peripheral idea that you kind of run with?
I'm a very spiritual, energetic person. And it's, more of a place where God is a part of my life for sure. I believe in the higher power, and but I am a great naturopath and believe whomever that is who's created this amazing body and human physique and everything surrounding us in nature was perfectly designed. Because I can go into nature and find an herb to support the disease state that I need. And there's food that have nutrients in it that align with the same nutrients that I need. And my heart has never skipped a beat. And my eyes dilate when the sun hits it and the light hits it. And my fever spikes if I need to reduce a viral load. So I'm a perfect machine. And somebody created that in their image and their views and made it all work for us. So I believe in that.
Very clearly you do. Do you feel like an extra sense of duty to preserve that since it's God given?
Oh,
Um,
strong. That you just hit it. It's like I wake up every day and say that this is what I have to do for the state of New Jersey for every child who is, like as I mentioned before, the decreasing health of state of health of the world. But, United States spending as much as we do on healthcare, we are just the sickest nation. So yes, it is my duty to be a space for people when I'm working with them to heal. It is my duty to fight to protect my children and my future children and the nation's children. I just want it to slow down. I just want the mandates and the processes to slow down so medicine can catch up.
is that your legacy? I mean, when the book of life includes your story, um, is that how you would like your life to be summarized? You slow down the forces that worked against health and healing, or how would you put it?
That's an interesting question. Yeah, my legacy is just I want to be a healing space for people. I want to get to um you know, unfortunately, I never saw politics as my direction, right? I'm not a political person, as you can see. I don't know that many of us in this fight from, this is what you do, Steve. You are interviewing these people. If many of them come from that space, I don't know. But yeah, for me, it's there's a lot of toxicity in our world, and I just want to help people be clear of that. And stopping these mandates and stopping the agenda of whatever it is, as I mentioned earlier on. I believe that there's a depopulation in there. I mean, I could go into that, but I don't have the hard proof. And so I don't need to get into that too much more, but yeah, it's definitely my legacy to fight for medical freedom.
Well, as you've illustrated, there's pretty strong forces opposing you. And is it safe to say sometimes you feel discouraged?
I have such a great support system. My board is incredible. The board of NJ5PAC. I definitely get discouraged, and then I pick up the phone and it's like, okay, here's the situation. How are we going to act? I used this example yesterday in a speech I gave on the State House steps. And I said that a friend of mine said to me, we're not going to hit an arrow at its heart and it's going to fall. It's a giant. We need to just bite off the toes and get it at its ankles and cut it off at the knees, and piece by piece. Again, as I mentioned, unfortunately, a lot of what we're doing right now has been putting out fires, and that is a big distraction from our progress. But it's extremely rewarding, the relationships that we have formed as a board on the state level. And they clearly value our approach and support that we've given to the legislators to support our mission. And in 2 years, we have gone from a whisper campaign, or 3 years, we've gone from a whisper campaign where advocates before I came into the picture have been advocating for this issue and whispering in the halls of Trenton, and legislators weren't speaking about it, to a place where we were recently as a board on the panel at a leadership convention for the New Jersey GOP. And I think that that's pretty significant for how far we've come. We're able to, and COVID helped us a lot to be able to speak to these issues because people became more aware, and they realized that it's not about being anti-vaccine. It's about, where's your threshold? Where is it enough for you? When, being able to create a system and policy that says it's okay to say no because you don't agree with this one. I don't think that there needs to be just a medical and a religious exemption. There should be a philosophical exemption again in New Jersey. And that was removed. So supporting legislators who believe that as well will really make a big impact on our state and our sovereignties. Yeah.
I think what you've done is you've said very sincerely and succinctly why you do what you do. And my last question is this. Let's suppose we have with us a mom who cares about her health and her children's health, her family's health. And she's aware, as you are, of all the issues and all the dangers. But she says very frankly and honestly, I know I should get involved, but I'm afraid to do this. What would your response be to that person?
I'm afraid every day to do this. But for me, there really doesn't feel like an option. But to that mom, just take little steps. I had some great companion friends who I said, well, I'm not going into that legislator's office by myself. You have to come with me. So we went together. I had two of us went into an office and had a first conversation with a legislator. And it was empowering because they listened. They just listened, and I listened to them and learned. And there didn't need to be. Yeah, I think I had a specific agenda. I was trying to achieve something at the moment, but they're humans. Our legislators, if that's the way you want to get involved, to speak up. It's a lot on them to have to read every single bill that they get in front of them. So you're the educator, you're their constituent, They are meant to be the public servant. The public servant to me sounds like it's a channel. It's an open channel. They are the liaison between what their constituents want and getting that message into Trenton. And, just feel confident to be able to speak to them because your truth matters. And that's something that I have had to resignate. I know that not everybody agrees with me. And when I talk about, getting healing from a tree or, from vitamins and things like that, it's like, oh no, I need my doctor. I have to go once a month and get my checkup and this and that. And people will think, I should be wearing a tinfoil hat, but it's my truth and it matters and it's legitimate. And there's a lot of other people in the state that think like me. And I learned that in 2019, being at the State House with over 3,000 other concerned New Jersey residents fighting for the same thing. So,
Felicia, you're an inspiration, and I'm sure that people watching this, many of them will feel validated and affirmed in what they're doing. And I want to thank you very much for sharing your strength with people and helping them get through the next day of the battle, because it's anything is fought one day at a time. Thank you so much for joining us.
thank you, Steve.
Just stay with us for a second.